Travis Wayne Goodsell. This video series is proving that YouTube has malicious intentions for just me. As Book of Mormon is not triggering attention. And I don't know, maybe it's because Mormons have no clue what I mean by in the learning of the Jews. That they are confused. What? It's Christian Jesus. It's another testament. But yeah, there's Book of Mormon Central. There's the Book of Mormon videos of the church that get multi-thousands and tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of views. And so, if the algorithm were to be equal and treat me equally, I too should simply be able to get those viewers to my channel simply by putting the Book of Mormon in the title. I did notice that when I did the Garna series, that the two videos in the middle where I used sexist Church of Christ, that caught people's attention. Whereas human trafficking and the general church news thing where the church said that Joseph Smith history is now an epic, it's no longer literal history. Nobody cares. Hilarious. And so, yeah, apparently the church has fixed it so that you are going to be unaware that you're about to be utterly destroyed this year. In the coming days, the mighty power of Jesus will smite you down and restore the kingdom. And so I also saw, when not signed in, so I couldn't ban it from my recommended list, a new guy, new Mormon, who's doing some kind of Mormon Miracle Network channel. Obviously that's not the title, because Jesus is angry about nicknames. And Lucifer, it's a major victory for Lucifer. Oh my God. They really play you for dumb. And you get angry at me. That's the sad part. The church, by treating you dumb, weaponizes you against me. Wow. But the one particular video on his Miracle Network was of Holland. The Miracles of Holland. I have not seen any miracles from Holland. He's known as Liar for the Lord. So get on YouTube, type in Jeffrey R. Holland, lying for the Lord. Not me. You won't see my videos. Yeah, he's already got the nickname. He's done no miracles. Dear God. But this is how desperate Mormons are to prove the church is true. They've got to change the definitions of religious words in order to make it true. They've got to force the interpretations to make them true. And the easiest way to show you that this is wrong are the bad examples of Mormonism. Brian David Mitchell. He forced the fulfillment of prophecy by changing his name. Obviously, it's not him still. You can't change you to force the prophecy fulfillment. Chad and Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell, Lori Vallow, they too changed them to fit the prophecy. And in both those cases, Brian and Chad and Lori, notice how they still believe in Jesus, but that they believed they were a Christ figure that was going to work with Jesus or prepare the way for Jesus' coming. Even FLDS church leader Warren Jeffs, he too believes in the coming of Jesus, that he, as the prophet, is the Christ. And so that's why he's able to rot in prison, because he still believes that Jesus will come and rescue him. Similar to Brian David Mitchell, he believes Jesus will come and rescue him. Chad and Lori, Jesus will come and rescue them. And you see that with the political realm, where a certain former president who was put in the first year of the reign of King Zedekiah committed crimes on his behalf, and they got busted and locked up, where he's still free. We still have yet to see if even confessions on tape are going to get him locked up. But many of those earlier ones were pardoned, and they're free. And others who do get locked up are given the promise by him: when I take office again, you will go free. And you know he will do that. He keeps his promises of abomination. You have to pay attention to what he says, because he will do it. When he wants to lock up women for having an abortion, he means it. When he wants to ban everybody who's of color, kick them out of the country, he means it. And nobody is taking him seriously still. Oh, he'd never crossed that line again. And so, yeah, it's the same thing with Mormons in the church. The Book of Mormon obviously, blatantly condemns this church. The Joseph Smith Papers, if you still can't figure it out, humiliate and destroy this church. If you just read it. And yet, the church is still going free. Mormons still are blinded. And they are weaponized against me. And as I'm doing in this series, I'm coming right out and telling you, I am the fulfillment of the prophecies in the learning of the Jews. See, in the beginning, when I was teasing it, people were mocking me. Mormons were mocking me, saying, is it you? It's you, isn't it? You think you're Jesus. You're mentally ill. Messiah complex. No. Wrong interpretation. Not Jesus Christianity. The first vision destroys this church. But the church has screwed it up. So, chapter 3. This is about the plates of brass. And it is used as a symbol, obviously. It's the history of the people, from the beginning to the end of the earth with the prophecies. It contains more than what was approved for the biblical canon. See, remember, Nephi says that the whole Bible is the learning of the Jews. He's correct. Christians didn't write anything of their own. They stole the Bible from the Jews and turned it into Christian literature, and a prophecy of their not real Jesus, by definition in the first creed of Christianity, that created Christianity and created Jesus as their Christ. Not real. 1700 years, it's the biggest con on the face of this earth. Multi-billions of people have been fooled, and Mormons are now a part of it because of Brigham Young saying, hey, that's a great idea. So I get blamed when I'm the Christ who fulfills all the prophecies. And like I said, I can't change me to force me to fit the prophecies. I either do or I don't. And so, as we have already read, Nephi is in the promised land. He's doing abridgments, keeping a larger plate record of the histories and the small plates abridgment. It includes the abridgment of Lehi, which contained too much York Rites Freemasonry for Martin Harris to feel comfortable with, and stole them and brought them back to his anti-Mason committee in Palmyra. And so Joseph Smith had to go on hiatus for a year. And in that year, it gave Sidney Rigdon more time to put more stuff in the Book of Mormon, such as the plates of ether. I've got more time, apparently. Let's put in an abridgment of the plates of ether. I've still got more time. Let's do the letters of my father Mormon. And we'll put in my beliefs that Alexander Campbell refused to allow me to do for the sacrament. Knowing church history, the real church history, helps you understand the Book of Mormon and what's going on there. But we're likely not to get to those. They're at the end of the book. And so I don't know how much time I have left. We have left. Don't know what the church has got for their next plan of operation since destroying the economy failed. So now they got to come up with something else to prepare and build up to September 22nd. And so this is what I was telling you about in the other videos, is that those that were rejected in the canons still apply. The prophecies of scriptures that were rejected still need to be put in. And you see the importance of all scriptures that prophesy of me, as they go to great lengths to go into great detail here about how to obtain these plates and take them with them to the promised land. And so the scenario is not as much as, it's not really a prophecy, because we've had the digital age, we have book publishers that have made it more accessible for people. But it's been a struggle for me because I had been collecting the particular necessary books for years since coming back from my mission, and acquiring the Joseph Smith's works, and then going on into the anthropology of the ancient Middle East and all the books for that. And then in 2008, the church was not happy with me. Were trying to destroy me. And I was forced to defend myself by petitioning the state of Utah for a redress of grievances. You know, the First Amendment. And having done that, they then fulfilled the prophecy about Jesus saying that in 3 days I will destroy this temple and then build it back up again. They used that on me. That my petition for a redress of grievances is now a terrorist threat. And the cops told my parents I was going to blow up buildings. They fulfilled prophecy. It wasn't even the start of the latter days yet. They jumped the gun. But yes, I was locked up just like Jesus. Just like Abinadi. And was tortured and abused. They tried to murder me. They erased me from history. It's just unbelievably evil. And so I lost all those books and journals that I had been writing. Dad threw them all away. So when I got freed in 2014, miraculously, the end of chapter 1 here, yeah, I can testify I had fulfilled it. I had to rebuild the collection again. And I was able to acquire the money necessary to buy them back. And people weren't happy again. Church, again, came after me. And yes, I got put into the shelter this time, because they failed to murder me again. And yes, it was 2020 when we were supposed to leave in an exodus, and Mormons didn't leave, and so I got stuck here with you, and I got tortured because Mormons didn't believe. I went before Pharaoh's court. Let my Mormons go. Nope. Prophecy fulfilled. The year of the Exodus, 2020. Everything happened. And Mormons remain in disbelief. They remained wicked. And so, like I said in the other video, we are likely looking at the Mulek scenario. I am Mulek, King Mulek, or is it Melek? Doesn't matter, the vowels don't matter. It's the consonants that reveal that it's King, the Christ. And even in that story, you're also seeing the importance of having records that contain real history, not rewritten history, real science information, not fake science of religion or psychology. And that's what this church is trying to do. They're trying to use spiritual witness religion with psychology, even though they condemn psychology at the same time. Because family services, they have a whole field of psychologists and counselors. They need jobs, thus they need people to see them. But Oaks came out to the youth just the other weekend and said that people are seeking counseling. Condemned the practice. Unbelievable. They embrace it, but then tell Mormons not to do it because you're weak if you go see a counselor. Which is, yeah, back in the 80s, everybody was criticizing psychology. And psychology was kind of still in the closet. They were trying to get out. They do their psychology network commercials saying if your kid manifests these symptoms, they may have depression. And then they'd disappear for a little while, and then they'd come back if they've got the same symptoms for depression. Now they're gay. They disappear again, come back, now they're a terrorist. God, they're so evil. And that if you've listened to the videos where I've explained how they're evil and how they function as a fraud, you would see in our culture how they've overrun this culture. Just completely and utterly turned us against each other. They're dividing to conquer. They are setting us up for utter destruction. And so that's what's being impressed upon us here, is that utter destruction is coming. You need to have accurate information of history and of sciences and of the prophecies of me. Because otherwise you're going to be like the people of Mulek, who completely change the language and can't be understood and know nothing of Christ. They start believing in idol god Jesus. And that will cause a dark age. You already see it. I've worked at jobs with the church. They have no inspiration. They are clone droids. Literally. You do what you're told to do. You cannot use your spirit to improve work conditions because it desperately needs it. And so I show up. Hey, you want me over at the warehouse, the Beehive warehouse now, huh? Oh, yeah, we've been doing this long time. Many people have tried to figure out a better way to do things. 7 people, full-time, 40 hours a week. Still can't get it done, so we often worked on Saturdays so that we can get it cut down a little bit for Monday. And again, week after week, same scenario. I come in, get a lay of how it works, and then recommend my change. And people had to leave in order for me to implement them and get approval, because nobody believed it would work. And so finally, new manager and the removal of a co-worker who was the one who designed the original system that we were using left. And so yes, I was allowed to implement it, and we did. And 2 people, 4 hours, done. 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 2 people, 4 all caught up, so that we could spend the rest of the day making sure that the order processing line was fully stocked for the next day, so that they weren't constantly calling back all day. We're out of this, we need more of this, hello, hurry, we're waiting, can't do this order unless we get it. Problem solved. And yeah, it caused panic because people thought that the church was going to fire them. It's the church, they're not going to fire you. They're just going to transfer you to the distribution warehouse, which was exactly what they were wanting. They couldn't figure out how to fix the problem to get what they wanted to accomplish. And then I show up, boom, heaven sent. And so yeah, they thought it was a miracle. No, you guys just aren't listening to the Spirit. And so I tried to warn them about the crane operations. Don't do it for the pick line. It won't work for the pick line. Don't do it. It won't work. They did it. Lost $1 million that first year. It's just... So yes, with the footnotes. There were footnotes that needed to be changed. They refused to change them. We were told that we have to follow the process for the footnotes because we do not want presidents of the church getting up at the pulpit of conference and making an error and humiliating himself because of what we did. And because they didn't listen to me, Nelson gets up at the pulpit of conference multiple times and humiliates himself. So yes, this is all part of the records of the people, or commentaries and footnoting to other passages. Also a part of this. And yes, I know how to do all of this because I've done it. And so when they kicked me out to go to the shelter, I'm being forced to leave. I can only take what I can carry. Knowing of who I am and what needs to be preserved, I took the 200 pounds of gold plates. I had to leave the boxes of books behind, but I was able to get the shelter caseworkers to help me move them into a storage unit. But then the storage unit tried to keep me from my property. If you remember all those video scandals that I was doing. Just unbelievable. Apparently I've got over 5,000 views on my 1 star for that company. I still see them in operation though. They've not gone out of business. But dear God, just pure evil of people who don't want me to own my property, who want me completely destitute and in ruins, and enslaved and held hostage, being human trafficked at the shelter. Just pure evil that is involved. And yet again, I got out and was able to acquire my property in the storage unit. And so there were a couple of boxes that didn't survive. And so I used one of the other boxes to replace them with. And I got the band back together again of the Egyptian calendars. And still the 2017, was elevated to high status because of what it shows. The guy who did these Egyptian calendars, they're the ancient Egyptian religious calendar that, had Egypt still remained to this day, would be for this day. He has no Christian affiliation to bias it. He's just doing research on the Egyptian calendar, taking it from records that have been found, and does his publications to share with us the history of Egypt and applying it to what it would be today if it were still in operation. And so in 2017, on the 21st of August 2017, the total solar eclipse over America that I knew was important when I found out on the 4th of November 2016, and quickly finished up the script decipherment for publication to go into researching the scriptures to find all of the signs in the heavens for the latter days. That day, for the ancient religious Egyptian calendar, is their new year. And it's not a 365 calendar year where it's the same day every year. It changes because it's lunar. And so for a total solar eclipse to be on the new year, yeah, impossible. Only once ever. The ancient Egyptians knew that date to be the latter days, when Horus would return to restore the throne of his murdered Joseph Smith. The beginning of the latter days. And so next year, on 8 April 2024, the last day of the latter days. The next day, the 9th, starts the millennium. On the 8th, which is a Monday, it is now the last day of the Jewish calendar, religious calendar, year, which is a leap year. It has second Adar. So it is associated with the Jews and the Egyptians. The latter days. Learning of the Jews, language of the Egyptians. This is why it's important to get these plates. So when I put my foot on the Mount Olympus and was bruised in my hands and in my feet because of how heavy they were, I then realized, oh, I just fulfilled prophecy. Section 45 of the Doctrine and Covenants. Joseph Smith adds feet. So, but yeah, it's still unclear that Mormons will weep for persecuting me. Mormons are still in the mocking phase. And when they watch this video, if somehow my video gets recommended despite the algorithms, they will be more intensified in their hatred of me. And so, some other things from this, because we're covering multiple, just unbelievable. I hope you're not paying attention to the dating. It's wrong, obviously, but if it's even wrong from what they were doing. Because in order for Nephi to be born in the first year of the reign of King Zedekiah, it was only 11 years later when Babylon came back and utterly destroyed Jerusalem. And so at birth in 597, at the most, he could be 11 years old on the final year, as Babylon has already begun their march towards Jerusalem to get these plates. And so for Bruce R. McConkie to put in about 600 to 592, no. The collection is in the final year. That's this year. So yes, prophecy fulfilled. I am still working on making sure that I have them all. It's complicated because of the afflictions that I've experienced. There have been people who've reached out to try to help, and so I do need help, because as we're going to get to next, you have to have men and women to build Zion. But this is where we get Mormons murmuring and complaining that they don't want to risk their lives to get the brass plates. They don't believe that Jerusalem's going to fall. Mormons don't believe the church will fall. If the church falls, only the rich who bought the Joseph Smith papers in published form will have access to the truth. Mormons will still have the tampered with quad with the footnotes that still are in desperate need of changing, because the English doesn't have the changes that I contributed. They did approve a lot of mine, but there are some key ones that they refused, and Nelson humiliated himself with. But they fixed that by changing the manuals. Dear God, what a mess. But the scriptures will still be a stumbling block for Mormons if they keep theirs, if they have a printed copy still. But if you're only accessing the scriptures online or through an app, they may not be available during the collapse. It's unclear about the internet. I don't have enough knowledge on how the internet functions and if we can still access it if the world collapses. There's conflicting information that I'm getting, and I don't have enough knowledge to figure out what's going on. I know about algorithms, know all about those, and thus AI. And yes, the warnings need to be heeded. The people who are making AI are purposely making AI to destroy us. Because of the programmers who are putting in the information using psychology. Psychology purposely screwed us up to destroy us. And so when you plug that psychological pattern into the program, yeah, the machines will destroy us. But anyway, we won't live long enough to experience that. And so yes, genealogy. I told you, I am the bloodline. That's why it's necessary to have the bloodline. The whole concept of the sacrament is about Mormons passing down the bloodline until the Christ comes, partaking of the broken bread and the blood-red wine of Osiris to give birth to Horus in the future for the latter days. That's why you gather for the Exodus, gathering to Zion. All of that's symbolic. And the records of the Egyptians need to be preserved. And so, yeah, I got them. So I don't know how I'm going to take the boxes of books with me if I have to walk. I will need some kind of transportation. Big enough to put them all on. And yeah, we see Mormon and then Moroni who wander around with all these plates that can fill a whole cave. Yeah, the Knights Templar. But yeah, we really don't need the Knights Templar records per se, because I have them all. I know what needs to be put in the additional scriptures. But this story teaches about accomplishing what seems to be impossible. And after you've done all you can, how somehow miraculously you get preserved to accomplish your goal. And I am a living witness of that. And so, yeah, I'm waiting for the church's next attack. But, yeah, I really could use some help. But I do understand that people may not be interested in this, as they might be Laban and Lemuel, but also they have other interests in life that they can contribute to Zion. And I would hope that this would inspire people to not only help me, but to do what they do and set it up to prepare for Zion. And so, for example, I have my hobby is women's fashion. That's been a childhood thing because of my mom. Set out the Sears catalog on the kitchen table after it expired, and we'd go through it and do collages. And that's how I found out that there's these strange creatures called woman. And they're in fashion. And so, yeah, I'm secretly fascinated by women. I want to know more, but I can't because I'm Mormon. And women are evil. And then my sisters get fashion plates for Christmas, and I'm always playing with it. Not my sisters. I have to go knock on the door of my sisters. Can I play with the fashion plates? Fine, but out here on the floor outside of our room. As the door is shut, obviously, but it has to be played right there at the door. So that when I'm finished, I knock on the door and give it back. I can't take it to the kitchen. I can't take it to my bedroom. I can't take it to the living room. It must be right there on the floor by their bedroom. And so, yes, I did acquire it. I had to go through eBay in the West Valley apartment. But unbelievable. The shelter did something to my laptop or my computer internet, because I can no longer access regular store sites on Google. I can't access Barnes & Noble, Walmart, eBay, Smith's, food and grocery. Not even Graywell CD Exchange. None of those. It just keeps buffering and then times out. Won't let me access it. And I don't know how to fix that. I don't know what the problem is. But the shelter is when it happened. The shelter did something to me that is causing problems. So, alrighty. Angel. Yeah, no, that's a tell. That's one of the anachronisms in the Book of Mormon. It would be messenger. Even the Jews would refer to it as a messenger. It's not until the Roman period time where they start calling messengers angels in translation. But it's Malachi, and it's messenger. It's not an angel. It's a tell. But you'll see us call the angel Moroni. Not the angel Jesus, but the angel Malachi, or angel Moroni. But he says he's a messenger. So it's the messenger. It's Malachi. But he says his name is Nephi. But yet he's described as Emmanuel, the sun god at noonday of the Egyptians. Hilarious. Oh, yeah. There's some Law of Moses stuff in here. As Laban steals their property as they try to buy the plates, he falsely accuses them of trying to steal the brass plates. And so he steals their money and says, I will murder you for trying to steal the plates. And then steals their money, their property. In the Law of Moses, there is Deuteronomy 19 concerning what happens to false accusers. It's the beam and the mote. They are to be punished according to what they claim is to be the punishment. So Laban, because he made a false accusation that they were trying to steal, and then stole from them and said that they must still be punished with death, Laban, as a false accuser, must be punished with death. They do not mention that when Nephi is conflicted about how to obtain the plates, and then slays him by cutting off his head. People think that that's a horrible thing and he shouldn't have done that and blah blah blah. No, the Law of Moses required it. But they don't mention that, which is strange. They should have. So he gives other excuses as to why instead. And so yes, this also applies with the president of the church, Nelson what he is falsely accused in me, calling for my murder. God has got something big planned for Nelson. Because I've already done the videos of the previous presidents of Brigham Young's church. Yeah, Nelson's in big trouble. He thinks that he was in a crashing plane and was remaining calm despite the hysterical woman. No, he's going to wet himself with what God has planned for him. I hope I get to find out about it. But we're still waiting on Holland. The Miracle Man. Yep. And so, yeah, the drawing of lots. Yeah, that's Mormon's spiritual witness. You might as well just flip a coin, guys. Dear God. If you're not going to follow the science of agronomy, the Book of Mormon teaches. Oh, yeah, and then Zoram. Good thing they got Zoram because there was an extra daughter of Ishmael. What would they do? Oh no. And so, yeah, this is also a situation as we're in the last days, and chaos is going to ensue. And you're going to have situations of people who are going to find me finally and be way behind. They are going to be confused. They're still going to be conflicted, thinking that the Jews are righteous. Mormons are righteous. And so with the Zoram situation, Nephi was able to get him to make a covenant with him, and thus he keeps his covenant. That's what was going on there. But our society, it's like, no, he wouldn't have gone for that. He doesn't make covenants. Even at the threat of death, he'll make a covenant, but then he'll break it at the first chance he gets. That's how Mormons are these days. But in those days, covenants were more serious. You make a covenant, you keep it. But, yeah, the whole pretending to be somebody else, yeah, I don't need to do that, but I am large of stature. 6'5". Prophecy fulfilled. And so, should we include, we're going on an hour here, even as the Egyptians. Yeah, he keeps talking about Moses. Be strong like unto Moses, man like Moses. He truly spake unto the waters of the Red Sea, Sea of Reeds, the Green River. I parted those. I was mocked because Mormons didn't believe. Mormons mocked me because Mormons didn't believe me. And yet I parted the waters in 2020. The Green River. I told Mormons earlier that year, if something happens, meet at the turnoff, at the Green River turnoff. Mormons didn't believe. They didn't listen. They didn't go. But I parted the waters. Creeping death. Yep, that came too. It all happened in 2020. And you missed it. That's the big event. And Mormons missed it. Now we've got to do the Mulek with the destruction of Babylon coming and people fleeing for their lives. And only a few went with Mulek. I'm not even sure I'll get that many people to believe me and go with me. I mean, yeah, I probably could by reminding Mormons that Joseph Smith is a true prophet. The Book of Mormon told us about this, and they didn't believe, and here we are, gotten destroyed. They might then believe. And so, okay, fine, we'll follow you. I will follow you wherever you may go. But then they'll argue and complain just like Laman and Lemuel. You're taking us away from Salt Lake City. We had it good there. You're a visionary, man. If our days had been like Joseph Smith, we wouldn't have murdered him like our ancestors did. Alright. And so, yeah, we'll include chapter 5 here because it contains the writings of Moses and the prophets. It's all the prophecies. And so, yeah, I've got my journals as well. Journal vlogs. The sealed portions. And the genealogies. Back to Joseph. But yes, through Hiram. That's me. The bloodline. And prophesies that the brass plates will go throughout all the world. I'm waiting. I've got them. It can happen. You just need to make it happen. And Sariah complains. I do have hope that I'll get married again. Get together with another woman. Because the prophecies say that I'll have 2 failed marriages. It's consistent throughout many of the prophecies. But it's also talking about the wedding supper feast of the last day at the temple of Zion. So isn't that exciting, women? Don't you want to be my bride? Not if you were the last man on earth. Great. So the Mormons get utterly destroyed, and no woman wants to be with me. Yay! We're so doomed. You know, visionary man. Alrighty. Yeah, that's it. Because you see the prophecies concerning his seed. And so then we get into the next video that I'll do for chapter 6. They collect seeds, vegetation, and then get wives. See what they're doing there. Alrighty. So yeah, she too could not see the miracle that her husband was doing. My wives couldn't see it. I did perform miracles in their presence, and it wasn't good enough for them. So yeah, they fulfilled the prophecy here of an unfaithful, unbelieving wife who just can't see how their husband is the Christ because they're stuck on Jesus.